This is Conspiracies Unpacked. My name is Danny Clayton, and we're about to take a turn into the macabre to see if we can find the true identity to Jack the Ripper. In 1888, it was theorized there was a single serial killer going around and murdering young women. But it was the way the murders happened which attracted so much attention. Their throats were slit and their bodies were dismembered. This has inspired immeasurable amounts of crime fiction and pop culture. And to this day, we still don't know who Jack the Ripper is. But helping me with that is Dr. Richard Hames. So many different conspiracy theories are suggesting that so many different people have been involved. Who are some of the supposed Jack the Rippers?
Well, the police were interested in interviewing and detaining butchers, surgeons, people with anatomical knowledge of the human bodies, given the nature of the killings and the brutality of the mutilation, of the disemboweling and wrapping the bowels over the left and right shoulder. But also, there were a huge number of people who wrote letters claiming to be Jack the Ripper, who clearly were not, and even implicated was Queen Victoria's grandson, I believe, who was, a member of the royal family. So this is why it became such a worldwide mystery and phenomenon.
Okay, so it seems like the person involved or the persons involved could have been in the medical field, they could have been in butchers, but even the police, I believe they were sent a part of the human body. Is that true?
Yes, a kidney or part of a kidney. Yes, absolutely. Again, it's perhaps misleading. Very difficult to know whether the actual killer would have done that or whether it was someone else looking for attention for some reason.
What do we think happened to Jack the Ripper? And if this person was so well known at the time, do we think that this person could have gotten away with murder?
I think it's quite possible. Whitechapel at that time, it was a very poor area of London. There were lots of immigrants. The overcrowding and the poverty was appalling. There were around 61, 62 brothels just in that area and about 1,200 prostitutes working. It was a very seedy area of London at the time, and people could very easily hide in that environment.
So there was never really an official body count for Jack the Ripper. It was given maybe an official 5 people that they really truly believed Jack the Ripper murdered, but then it went up as high as 1,000. What do we think is the most likely number of victims from Jack the Ripper?
Probably 5, which had those shared characteristics out of about 11 that were considered to be possibly by Jack the Ripper, but I think 5 essentially.
So there has been some pretty interesting stories hitting the media lately about DNA testing helping us find out the true identity of Jack the Ripper. Do we believe these stories? Is there any credibility to those?
In terms of the DNA testing, I think that was later discredited. An apron or shawl that was found on one of the women, the blood tested for animal blood, pig blood. So it could have been a butcher, but who knows?
Do we think that this is one person? Do we think it's many people? Do we think it's a woman? Do we think it's a man? Where does the evidence point to?
The finger seems to point to a guy called Frederick Deeming, who was a con man, convicted of killing his wife Emily, and actually hanged in Melbourne jail in 1892.
So do we think that the Jack the Ripper was an Australian?
I don't think he was Australian. He was a global traveller. He was English from Liverpool, I believe, or Manchester, and ended up in the Melbourne jail. But he was known to dislike prostitutes, although he visited brothels himself. I think there's a lot of evidence, circumstantial nevertheless, pointing at him.
So what you're suggesting, Richard, is that over 100 years of conspiracies, over theories of the identity of Jack the Ripper, and this guy was already caught and killed in the 1800s?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so Jack the Ripper, is he actually Frederick? It's quite possible. This is Conspiracies Unpacked.